hot now. I just. But hopefully the people at home hear us.
Turn- Oh, it's not on?
Yes,
Yeah, and there's echo. Somebody's
Hello?
got the audio on. Mine is off.
Is that me?
Mine is off as far
Is
as
the
I know.
audio off on the?
Mhm. And MJ, if you are using,
Yeah, I'm in the Zoom. My microphone's
turn it off.
muted. My
Yep, I was the
speaker is-
problem. I turned it off on my computer.
Hello?
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting at 4:01. And we're gonna wait for our secretary.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, so we're gonna take roll call. I am here. Here, Mary Lunder, here, Kimberly Cashin is here, and Wanda Jenner is here. Let the record show, we have a full house. Okay, so our first, so I would like to say, Fire Marshal cannot make it today. She all thinking of her and her family. But we do have some other things on our agenda. So we're going to start with oral communication, not on the agenda. I'm going to begin. I want to welcome our new member, Kim Cashin. So Kim's going to have a chance to introduce herself later in the meeting, but I wanted to give you a taste of why I'm so excited to have her on the Wildfire Preparedness Committee. So Kim is an emergency planner with grants. And she has also joined the EP. So while she's not an official EP liaison, status on the EP projects that involve wildfire. And also Marianne Plunder, who is our conservation liaison, is also on the EP.
You might say what EPC stands.
Oh,
for.
Emergency Preparedness Committee. And I just want to remind everyone that it is part of our charter to. So we're very excited to have you both on the committee. So given the fact we have a new member, I always say, so we are a Brown Act committee, and if you don't know what that means or have questions, contact me. The big thing to remember is we have 5 members, means that any 3 of us are talking about a wildfire issue that might appear on our agenda or on our agenda. We are having a meeting, and we are not allowed to have meetings unless we get public and we. So I always encourage everyone to pick a buddy for every topic. Like Wanda and I are buddies for the insurance survey. Kim, I know you're going to be on the mitigation subcommittee, so you, MJ, would be buddies for. Obviously, you and Marianne would be buddies for. We also never have any kind of serious patients, so we don't see each other on email. When I send out an email, I always. And watch out if residents send you an email with a question, make sure that many members of the happens just. And I'll just pick somebody to. We also discourage receiving texts or emails unless you don't know who you're communicating with. And we must be in person during our meeting. We are allowed to have to. There's a procedure in it. Okay, so yes,
So, if one of the members can't make it, the person can join by Zoom, but is then not a voting committee member. So that person, yes, I'm sure.
yes, but you are a voting.
No. At that, so let's say I would be on. I
Right.
can, then I'm not counting towards the quorum, and I cannot vote with you, but I can actively participate in the meeting, make suggestions and what have you. It's
That
just-
is not my understanding, but I would see that somewhere. But as far as I
That's
know,
how the other committees do it.
I,
I know
Yeah.
it's been a long time since we had a meeting. That's how we operate. But remember the meeting when Nona couldn't make it and she called in on,
you're sure on that?
am I what?
Are you sure on this?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Can I offer a clarification?
Yes.
David Cardinal.
Yeah, if you call in, I don't want to say randomly, but unprepared, before all the work is done, then you can't vote. However, we just went through this with Judith on the town council, who chaired the town council meeting from Hyannisport or somewhere. There's a procedure if you register the location where you'll be and you post the minutes there, which I think, or the agenda there, and then the lawyer reads off a bunch of stuff about whether everybody can hear you. So there is a procedure where you can be a full voting member, but not if you just dial in.
Yes, so Dave, yeah, yes, and I do know that. And you have to post it and you have to be in a public location. But we're discussing that you can actively participate in the,
I'm sure you can, because even the chair
Oh,
of the EPC has done it.
okay, we
Yeah.
can't have, this is not on the agenda. I'll tell you what.
Can't vote on it.
I will clarify with the town manager only because I'm very clear what the lawyer told me 3 years ago, and it may be that the town has clarified that under. So that would be delightful if we could participate via Zoom. Given the fact that we rarely take votes, does that mean we could just Zoom our meetings? So I will be checking on that. And
Well,
also,
Jennifer, the clarification. Yeah, I mean, assuming we have a quorum, but the person who calls in without having previously said, I'm here, you guys can all join me here. That person who just calls in, they can only participate as a member of the public. So they
oh,
can't
okay.
participate like a member of the committee, have all this discussion as, and then that person will have to wait until the public comment.
That I agree. I agree with. So is that our understanding? Oh, okay. So
But there is a lot of, yes, that is the understanding, but there's.
I probably not a lot of flexibility with me.
that's fine.
Because I have actually been sued under the
Ah.
Brown Act. So no, I don't have any. And also to clarify, always contact me. I don't count as part of that quorum because I know that I would never decision, but if you and MJ were working on something on a project and needed a resource or you needed to say, hey, this is where we are, is it time to present or whatever, you can always contact. That's not a Brown Act. Okay. Is there any other oh, yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I had an oral.
yes, I was going to ask, is there any other oral?
Yes, all right. So since we haven't had a meeting since January, is Greg Taylor still our liaison?
As far as I know,
Oh. Does he know?
as far as I know.
Okay.
And I just texted him yesterday, but
Oh,
anyone else on the committee, oral communications that are not on the agenda? Anyone online have oral for items not on the agenda? Just raise your hand on Zoom. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to oral approval of the. And thank you, MJ, for the wonderful minutes. So can I have a motion? So we have a motion to approve the minutes for January 15th. That was by Wanda, show of hands. Okay, great. They're approved. Okay, so both items 4A and B, the fire marshal's updates are going to happen hopefully next month if we have quorum. So let's move on to item C, a discussion concerning weekend and holiday wildfire mitigation.
Oh, I don't remember what initiated this. I may have posted a wildfire tip, PV forum, or one was posted, reminding people to whack their weeds now that the weeds were all getting brown and 2 to 4 feet. And someone emailed me and asked, well, can I go ahead and do it, this Memorial Week holiday? And I said, no, you can't. I mean, you could do it, but then someone could report you, and then if anyone in the town answered, they'd probably tell you to stuff. And so, I got the idea of maybe for May and June, which is when, we really want people to whack their weeds, maybe we could suspend the noise ordinance so that people could work on Sundays, or, professionals could work on Sunday. I know it would be very controversial, but I thought, maybe we're getting to the point where we should face that. We have this wildfire danger and we have to do something.
Any comments?
So, yeah, now, I think you implied it, if I weed whack on Saturday,
No,
it's a private person. The noise
yeah,
ordinance doesn't apply.
yeah, we're talking about Sundays. In her case, she was talking about, yeah, she was gonna have people come out on Monday, Memorial holiday, But I think also Sundays, you can't have any professional, but,
You can't have professionals on the weekend.
yeah, but a homeowner could do it anyway.
I'm not sure.
Does
if the
anyone know?
homeowner can- I'm sure they
Yeah,
can
I'm
on
not sure.
Saturday.
Yeah, I know they can do. Anyways, that, we could find out what the current rule is, but my question is, should we having, kind of waive for the peak, weed whacking weekends or
Why can't
something?
they weed whack? Which professional weed whacks?
I don't know, you know how it is, you're just trying to get some, maybe the only day they can show up is, I don't know. I mean, planning is always the best, but you can't always plan and, would flexibility increase the number of people doing it? I don't know. Maybe it will have no benefit at all.
Yeah, I just worry because a homeowner's gonna probably have a little weed whacker. And I would think those guys have really big weed whackers that are
Well,
noisier
they're
and,
gas.
and-
They're probably gas, because gas weed whackers
Yeah.
are not
Right, they are
disallowed,
not
right?
disallowed.
Yeah.
you know, people, gosh, they really do. They should have some time off on the weekend. So, I mean, I'm not closed-minded on this. If this is something you feel strongly about and present, I think we should do this, and here's the impact and here's the thinking, and I've thought this through. I'm not against putting it on the agenda, but I am concerned, I mean, I am desperately concerned about cutting weeds. However, there's a wide time frame to cut weeds. And there's a lot of months to get a contractor to come out to whack your weeds during the week. And I'm very reluctant to have a high noise event. Because it's not going to be just because this guy to come out, and this is the only time. It's going to be, well, I can do it. It's not going to be just in the case of an emergency.
And it will be hours.
Yeah.
It will be like a whole day. Hours. You don't weed whack.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on the size of your
And the other thing,
lot.
if you do that in terms of waiving the noise, there is a not so far conclusion then, then let's just start cutting trees. Why? Let's cut trees. So
True.
but the thing is, I think we have lots of, because people have already weed whacked. So
Oh.
it's not that this is urgent. The weed whacking
Oh,
has
right.
already happened.
Yeah,
So maybe
well,
you want to do some more research.
well, no, I mean, basically, if the committee doesn't like the idea, there's no point in doing the research. I just, like I said, this person emailed me going on.
I-
Should we pursue it? I don't know.
I-
That's why I didn't even make it part of my hear what people thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always good to, I mean, I'd like to see more goats coming out on people's property, eating the weeds, and that didn't go in. And, and I've asked every expert, I think, before I could say that I would be for it, I'd have to understand why it is imperative to do it. Because it is important to have quiet on the weekend. People pay a lot of money for their property tax and they should have a nice weekend. And before we say there's a 2-month period where on the weekend you can bring in a professional with a really noisy weed whacker, we should really have some good reasons why this has to happen. I mean, is this a widespread problem or is it just one person? And
Okay,
so,
that's fair. Do you want to each chime in?
yeah, I mean, does anyone else have any?
I've been reading all of the comments. Is my mic on or?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been reading all of the comments on the TV forum, talking about noisy equipment out here. And I'm pretty sure there was a comment that gas powered of any kind are prohibited.
Blowers.
Yeah, not weed whackers. Ah, okay, well, maybe I'm far enough on the top of the hill that I don't hear it. But I really feel strongly about not having noise on the weekends. And I would have trouble being in favor of it. Sorry, MJ.
Oh, no, I don't
Kim,
know.
any thoughts?
I'm just, I'm trying to put my, a few weeks ago. So you don't really have months to kind of do this. It's kind of like a short time. Dry, tall grasses grow to that limit where if you cut them, you're gonna actually have to cut them, right, like twice in one season. There, you have to wait until they're kind of right at that perfect growth period to cut them down. We've experienced it this year after year. So I do understand where this person is coming from, sense that you're kind of beholden to the schedule of your gardener or whomever it is that's working or doing, right? And so if you only have, a limited amount of time to squeeze in over the weekend. We were fortunate they had time on, but if they only have a few hours on a Saturday within that time, I feel for people, right? Because they're limited. And you don't, folks often don't have like a Rolodex of people to call, right? But I think allowing, like, let's say the month of June, then that kind of bleeds into July and it bleeds into May. And once you kind of adore or Pandora's box, I think there's always these gray areas. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to it, but I also, folks would probably start to take advantage. But I do think the bottom line is getting the grass and the weeds and the defense of the space taken care of. That's most important.
The one thing I have noticed was in the conservation committee, reading and we watch, and we don't really see that there are a lot of properties out that haven't been defined. So I actually don't think that we look where are the properties and the fire department. So it seems to me over the last 20 that people seem to be perfectly fine weed whacking for the.
I don't
Except
know.
maybe those
On my street, like today, my neighbor is cutting their wood. They've been by and for weeks already, and
Yeah.
so there's always like maybe 10%. Don't get around to it until, they get a little knock on the door or something. So,
I'm not talking about like one hours.
Oh,
Big one.
yeah.
The other thing, I am for people who work multiple, because I want Wildflower, there were certain things I don't want to go to other, so I would work a little bit myself, but I had a gardener, I had to weed whack, we had this season, yeah.
So is there a reminder? I know, I can't remember when the fire department sends out their letter, but don't they say,
There's a
think
deadline.
about it? And don't you get like a reminder, like a couple months away or?
I-
or-
They didn't send any
No, they
paper
don't
thing
send
this
anything
year.
out. They force after June. Their deadline. There's a deadline for
Well,
the fire.
Yeah, there's no longer a deadline. In
There's-
fact,
it's gone?
Kim just sent out an email, I think yesterday or something, saying abatement is now year round, and they're gonna come around and talk to you any time of year, depending on what. So she actually took the deadline date out of the
Interesting.
ordinance. So,
That makes sense. I just wish that there was some way, I mean, postcard at the budget. But I just wish there was some way if everyone was signed up to our newsletter, we could say, hey, 3 months from now, you've got a weed whack, schedule this with your gardener now, but
But that would be a good,
yeah,
thing in the newsletter.
but everyone then has to read the newsletter and I don't think they do. So I'm just trying to think.
What about like the electronic message that you could put like, near Ford Field? I mean, I feel like so much stuff has gone towards electronic communications that not everybody is, reviewing the electronic communication, getting too much of it. The postcards in the mail are gonna be too much, but what I'm thinking for like the community is finding kind of these main points where you can put a big poster at Roberts, a electronic message board coming in. Have you whacked your weed?
And that's free.
And it's
We
free.
get that free. So when would we want that electronic board to go out?
June, beginning of June.
But wouldn't you want it to go out in May to say schedule now?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
would that fit on an electronic board?
Yeah, and you might have to come up with like the verbiage to be condensed. It's just a thought, like Alpine and folks just.
Yeah, schedule your weed whacking for June today. That could fit.
Yeah, you can do rotating, so you could do whack your weeds schedule now on 2 frames, I think. So it wouldn't be rocket science.
So,
And taking that one step further, I don't know if today's high fire day, high fire.
No
Yeah.
weed
you know,
whacking.
Yeah, red flag.
yeah.
today's a red flag.
No,
day?
no.
Oh,
Using the electronic message.
You can't get the board out that soon. I mean, you don't know that it's a red flag day till right before, and you really have to schedule these boards a couple weeks in advance.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
I didn't
Couple
know.
weeks.
Yeah, and then they kind of show up kind of around the time. And you only get them for like a couple of.
Okay.
MJ, how does that sound? Do you guys want to kick around this with the mitigation committee? I mean, I could reach out. I hesitate to to reach out to the town manager because by the time,
Yeah.
when are we going to get the new one? But maybe we have it on our schedule that if we asked for an electronic sign in February or March, we could have it in place for a couple days in May, and we could ask for 2 so that we get both Alpine and Sand Hill or Portola Road. Yeah. Does that sound like that would meet the issue?
I think it's a good start.
So why don't, yeah, and then why don't we take some comments before, from the, so we have, oh, somebody actually here is the mic on?
So, isn't the fire marshal getting an electronic? She said that, such messages could maybe go out on, since that's relevant. It's their board.
Well, we also get boards from the state for free, or from the county at least, because I know when we did the wildfire fair, got two for the wildfire fair for 2 days. So I would say get all three of the boards going, but
Right.
I'll
so
include her.
Well, I was thinking that if they're going to have boards, they're talking about electronic boards that they will put up that says red flag and so forth. If they have these boards already and it's a fire issue, I would think it might be a source of getting it put up.
So then that might be okay. Does anyone else have any comments, online? Okay. So maybe we should continue this discussion next month and ask the fire marshal about these boards, because that would be the easiest.
Right.
If we could tell her that this is a problem, and if she may already have this on a.
That's good.
Okay,
Let me just ask Jennifer, said for the wildfire fair, you got some signs from the county?
No, I think
Electronic
it's from the
signs?
county. Yeah, it's from the county because we got those 2 free electronic. Yeah, and they didn't cost us a penny.
So we just borrowed them, you mean?
You just order them and they show up. They're for along, Alpine and
Really?
flashed about the,
Is it like when you were speeding?
it's really big and it's not the spit, it looks like a speed, but it has text.
Like these.
Yeah.
On the side of the road.
They're free and you can they just wheel them in. It's like a trailer and they dump them there for,
Similar to
mhm,
that.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and they were free.
Want to know how much this one.
The town manager.
the town manager. So they don't-
Yeah, the town manager manages. Okay, so I will continue this item next month on the agenda and we'll ask him. So anything else on this topic? Okay,
You
Yeah.
want me to just summarize, because I'm typing the whole time?
I trust you completely to summarize and.
No, well, let me just say what I've read. So one point was, how big is the problem is just a lack of planning on some homeowner's part, and that sounds kind of rude, so I'll have to edit that. People value quiet on Sunday. Hard to control the time frame of when it actually happen, or hard to control or enforce. One point is that gardeners sometimes have to squeeze in the weed whacking in a regular maintenance, but again, planning could solve that. And then the message board question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually do think this is part of a bigger, as you say, it's not an emergency now, we're kind of already there, but we have struggled over the last 3 years to educate people about mitigation and get, the information out there. And the wildfire fair was very successful, but it was a huge amount of work. We have 2 reports on it. Happy to send you, Kim. And the question is now, I think next year the inspections, they're going to be in Portola Valley, right, MJ, next year? Or the
Last
end of
time
next?
Kim, and she thought she'd get to Portola Valley by this
Yeah.
year, right? Isn't that what she said?
Right.
2026.
Yeah, largely 2026, but starting peak.
So we have a lot of people because I don't think, Portola Valley is, that this is on their radar for many. Weed whacking and,
Well,
zone zero and, um,
Yeah, I think a lot of people still don't know about these
yeah,
assessments coming, the annual or every 3-year assessments coming through.
Yeah.
Because my neighborhood, we had a Firewise meeting last Monday and a lot of people didn't know about it.
yeah.
Mm.
So that would be a good thing to actually have this be part of a bigger conversation. If we can grab, the fire marshal for 1 month and start to talk to her about how he wants us to. Okay. Then I would say we're going to close this out and go up to our next issue. Are you ready, MJ?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay. So we're on to item D, which is an update on the Wildfire Preparedness Committee's final report and recommendation concerning decking surface and PV ordinance 2020-47709A-3 decking surfaces. So this report was created in February of 2024 by the mitigation subcommittee of, at that time, MJ Lee and Dee Bailey, who was amazing, a member and had to move out of the state. And they spent a great deal of time for it. I'd be happy to send it to Kim and Marianne if they want to read it. Yes, it's just an incredibly, and I meant to send it today. And it was in response to many residents for many years voicing their frustration, Ola Valley's current decking surface restrictions that were put in place in January of 2020. And at that time, Portola Valley limited decking services, non-combustible material, not fire, not ember resistant, non-combustible. And what the mitigation subcommittee found was that no product on the Office of State Fire Marshal Building Materials list met that decking service requirement. And what this meant is that basically possible for residents to replace a wooden deck with a deck that looks like wood. And also, I know from my own experience with my house in the ranch, many homeowners have a foundation that can't support a metal, tile concrete staircase. And so if your wood deck is, a wood deck is something that insurance companies don't like, it's come to the end of its life, you want to replace it with something going to be at least ember resistant. And you can't use all those great products that are with our ordinance. So basically the committee, they just did an amount of work. I can't tell you how proud I was of the report. And basically what they recommended, adopt the state requirements for decking service. Not try to be more stringent. The fire marshal endorsed it. All 3 town managers had as a report came out have it. And I've reached out in multiple ways to multiple people, actually, and town staff like Corey and Jerry. I'd say, you please bring this up. And basically, I also put a report, my yearly report that I sent to all, when I sent it to the town council, and I said, we're still waiting. And I was hoping that Craig would be here today. He's basically someone needs to put it on town council agenda so and discuss it. And I literally have no explanation of why it hasn't been done. I've only heard of one email where someone was at it, that they wanted only non-combustible. They didn't fire resistant. So I'm going to continue to, there's not many more ways, honestly, because if I do any more, I'm going to become obnoxious. I've been, I've been assertive, but I can't do much more. So I just wanted to put that out there. And
So could you clarify, because I'm not up to speed now, I do understand the ordinance for new houses. But
MJ, turn to MJ. She is the expert on this. I have surpassed my knowledge.
I understand the ordinance or decks and new house. So, yeah, new building that you
Yeah.
have. Can you explain what the ordinance says with existing house?
Well, it's
Because
the
that's
same
not the
thing
same.
if you're rebuilding. If you're just repairing parts of the deck, it
Yeah.
doesn't apply, but if you were gonna rebuild
It's the
your whole
same
deck, it's the same, it's just new houses that you
Uh-huh.
can, right now, the way the town ordinance, there's nothing that will meet it except for non-combustible decking materials, which is tile and concrete. So you can, there's Class A products out. The state allows e-pay because that's Class A. There's a AZEC material that's very fire resilient, also Class A. Like I have a Trex deck, that's only Class B. So actually, the state would allow that next on like a stucco wall. So we would have more flexibility if we just use the state requirements. What happened was we had this contract planner who wrote the ordinance and he decided to take out one bullet without understanding what it meant. And effectively that just ruled out all these other Class A things. So that's why the committee voted on it and passed this, recommendation to the town, but I don't understand why we can't get it voted on.
Well, the one thing, Jennifer, if with the town council liaison, the way, like at the conservation committee or at the EPC, so the committee votes and says that's what we want to do. And then we usually get buy-in from the liaison, and then the liaison chair prepares a presentation to the town council, and then the liaison gets it on the schedule. And that is
Yes.
not working. Is that the,
I don't know.
okay.
I mean, there was confusion as well. It started when Howard was he said he approved, or no, it was Sharif said, I approve, but Craig needs to get it on the schedule. And then Craig said, no, it's the town manager. And it used to be Jeremy. I mean, it used to be when you wanted to do something
Yeah.
like go to Jeremy and, he would make it happen. And so for a while, it was just, nobody was sure how to get it on the town council agenda. And then when we've had the new town manager 3 times to him when I actually was talking to him, and I've emailed Craig, and I just honestly think, I mean, my gosh, we've had one heck of a year
Yeah.
with that town council and budget. And it
Mm.
just may be that they don't want to even ask the staff to, they may not waste any resources even
Mm.
getting this through.
ASCC.
So,
Go to ASCC. Because it's an ASCC. So go present it to the ASCC will buy in, and will go to the town council. Think about that. Think about that. That's the pertinent. That's how I would go. Yeah.
what do you think?
I don't
Andrew?
know.
Okay.
Because that's what we do when we want an ordinance. We go to the ASCC.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it.
I'm not going to think about it. Done.
Oh,
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes.
So I had a question as far as if your recommendation is that there are building materials that aren't fireproof but would be appropriate, does that also apply if I want to put a storage unit in in a similar location? In other words, can I make a, storage unit for tools that is of a, the ember resistant rather than the fireproof?
Yeah, I mean, the ordinance only applies to, as far as accessory building, I don't think there's any control at all on what you build. It's just that if you build a shed within 5 feet of the house and it, actually now they're starting to say like 10,
Right.
then, yeah, you won't be able to get insurance.
I think if your shed is far away, it's a question of house.
Right. No, no,
So,
I'm
because I can have a wood pile
sequoia is the only thing I'm talking about.
Oh.
is close to the house.
close to the
Yeah.
house. Okay. Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the final thing is you're gonna go talk to the ASC.
I'll send an email.
Okay,
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. I didn't even think about it. We didn't even know it would
Really,
happen.
because it's,
I love it.
Yeah.
Is there, and, yeah, go ahead.
What is the ASCC?
architectural
Careful.
site,
Oh, that, okay,
S and site control.
right, thank you.
I know what to say.
Do you think the current for the information, or can I can email
So-
you probably to get,
Yes, the chair is, the architect, Carter Ward.
Oh,
Carter
there
Ward.
you
So just send an email to Carter and see.
I will. Is there any comments from our online participants?
Yeah, a couple quick ones. First of all, I think for the sheds and stuff, it's 50 feet that you have to use some kind of non-combustible or whatever proper materials. Wood piles the same or similar way. I've had friends who've had to move their wood piles farther away. So I think there's a lot to do there. That said, I'm totally in favor of the proposed change to the decking ordinance. It's insane. We put in a new, not, excuse me, we repaired our 16-foot high deck by replacing less than 25% of the boards. And the town counted the boards. And if we'd replaced more than 25, we would have had to magically put, I don't know, a metal deck 16 feet off the ground, which is nuts. So I'm all for it and hope you're successful and I'll support you in whatever meetings you go to. Thanks.
And he
when
said,
was that, Dave?
Just a year and a half ago, probably.
Really?
Yeah, there's no, and I talked to the contractor. He said he got away with a couple in town. I said got away, but a couple were approved without metal, and a number of other ones he had to put in metal or tile or stone. It's been confusing all around, and we've gone through different inspectors and different town staff. But I believe right now, as the town ordinance says, if you replace more than 25% of the boards, it's considered a, I don't know, remodel or redo. And he said we would have had to bring it up to current code.
and if your foundation can't handle it, you're out of luck. He had said 50 feet, that he believes that a wood shed would have to be 50.
Well, if you wanted to make it out of straws or tinder,
No, is there a material that I can make it out of that is within zone 0 that I can put a storage, put some tools in up against the house?
Metal.
Metal.
Yeah.
Only metal.
What-
well, or party board is probably the most practical, or
Well,
metal.
just to clarify, I'm pretty sure the town doesn't have any right
is a
now,
fire department
sheds.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is IBHS, they're now saying, I think, is it 15 feet? They want shed 15 feet from the house, and they don't care if it's chapter 7A. I asked them, and they said, no sheds.
So what does that mean? Like even if you had a metal shed, it has to be 50 away from the
Yeah, I
house
think that's the number,
because
15.
of the contents, what's in.
You know, yeah, it's kind of weird. I didn't like their actually. It's going to blow into the, I don't know.
Is that a fire code?
No, this is a IBHS. So like if you're fire prepared home, you wouldn't pass if your shed is within, I think it's 15 feet. Because that's what their research,
And that may be significant because some insurance using those standards and
yeah, my personal suspicion is that the insurance industry is going to have to require wildfire prepared home because it's the only way they know that the house is.
Huh.
So,
okay, interesting.
Yeah, NIST or somebody has a really cool set of videos where they lit a series of sheds on fire at about 15 feet. And one was wood and one was metal. And the third one was made out of little piggies. I don't remember. But the structure to structure ignition was surprisingly noticeable. So I think that's what they're concerned about. 7A, which is our state code, I think just says if it's less than 50 feet, it's got to adhere to some building standards. So I think those are two different things so far.
Okay,
Maybe you can, instead of having a shed, you just have a bench, storage bin. That's a different thing. Yeah, it's not a shed.
the same thing.
but
No, because you can move it, because then you can move it at red back gate off away from the house. I would talk to the fire department. If you can move it. Yeah, but staff could.
I think that would be interesting to know, what does the fire department require, and then what does the building code require? I wish there was an easy, it's almost like we need a question and to help people understand these questions, because I'm confused.
Why would the town be more stringent in terms of fire than the fire department?
Well, you've got the town, you've got the fire department, and then station standards. Now everyone is towards because the insurance company may be requiring it.
There are several instances where the town, the fence requirement for the town, combustible fence. Fire, 2401 is 6 foot.
Well, that's okay. If it were the other way, it would. So the fire department says 10. So the town is more lenient.
No. It has to be, within 10 foot of your building, it all has to be
Oh,
non-combustible.
it's the opposite. Got it.
the town says that?
Yes, the 2000 ordinance.
Oh, you mean 2401 is the fire district.
No, not the fire district one. No, I can send you the quote, but it's 10 foot for the town ordinance and 6 foot for the new.
Oh, for
20
fences.
I wonder
Fence. Oh.
if either this committee or the would take on looking at these things, figuring out, different, and then asking the town and the fire department, why is this? Why are you not just the town and the fire department, not the insurance? I understand the insurance.
Yeah.
But that would be something that would be useful to the town if somebody points it out and says, why is this?
Yeah, it would be great if someone or some subcommittee would take that on.
But she
But
volunteered.
I do think the insurance, these wildfire prepared home standards that are coming out, and I think there's that is also important information, because as you're going to find out from the insurance survey, occasionally you are given to not get canceled if you pass one of these.
No, I
Patients.
think it's very.
And so,
important. Yeah, but
I-
we can't do anything.
yeah, I know, but I mean, I think it's good to tell people when you select a shed, be aware that although the fire department and the town may let you, your insurance company is going to probably ding you and maybe cancel you. So,
Yeah, that's an information.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think it would behoove that somebody
Yeah,
says, why is it 10 feet by the town? Why is it six? What's the rationale? And which one is the right one?
well,
Actually, I talked to Kim. And she told me that they were gonna change, she's gonna do an update to the, and she's gonna change the 6 to 5. Because then it matches up with everybody. Nobody's saying 6 feet. So at least all the fire, people are consistent.
Yeah, but you're
You
saying
mean
the
for
town says
trees?
10.
To the trees away from the side of the building, that kind
For
of?
fencing, fencing the fire district.
Yeah, we're figuring we have to meet 10 because the Portola Valley ordinance says 10.
Yeah, that would be,
But they are not the ones going out and checking. It's the fire department.
yeah,
check.
that's true.
oh, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
This is also reminiscent, I don't know if anybody's had friend home remodels at the front door. They have placed, a light, so that's a requirement by the fire department, right, for emergency. But the town has a rule that they don't want the light and they want it removed. So this is not the time
Oh,
the
that's
town and
true.
the fire department are not on the terms of emergency service needs. And I think that this is important. Just like that is important, and that's still ongoing.
And the problem is if you create that, start getting all the data down there, do we even have the capacity to get it accurate? It's
Yeah.
almost like it's the architectural committee that has to do it, or somebody that understands building codes, and then you have the fire district fill it out. And
It's big.
it's not only big, but we tried a while ago I forget what it was. We were going to do some kind of comprehensive document, everything you needed to know about your insurance. This is what we wanted you to know. And we found that as we into this, we couldn't definitively say what you need to know. And this is the problem, is that you should join our committee. You seem to know an awful lot. That could be something for your head.
Yeah. She's
I-
gotten very educated. Serena's gotten very educated.
You're here almost every time. You should join our committee. I'm serious. Great discussion. Anybody else? Want to
One
chime in?
One quick thought is we've had this issue before with the fire code and the town code, and it's been resolved amicably. For example, the fire code originally said that you needed street lit address signs. And of course, that's totally a no-no here. And I think they settled on they needed to be reflective. So some of the stuff I think just has to get negotiated between the fire district and the the town a little bit or whatever committee. Because it's, obviously you can't both have a light and not have a light over the door. So
Okay, I'm going to move on. Great conversation. So we're going into subcommittee and committee liaison updates. Let's start with the mitigation subcommittee update, and I think that Kim is now part of that subcommittee.
Oh, I apologize, Kim. I didn't contact you before this meeting. Figured you had a lot of stuff going on. So, since you're on the agenda also, I'll talk about your interests and stuff as far as mitigation and part of that. Okay. Excuse me. So I just, because we haven't met in a long time, I wanted to just bring a couple of things up. First of all, the California Fire Safe Council been running a bunch of webinars because they came up with this thing called the Fire Safe Vendor List. And if you go to their website, you can, they have a bunch of vendors, just like we've tried to do in the past, right? We didn't want to enlist anybody formally. but the California Fire Safe. And most of the vendors on this list, and they're like twice a year, most of the vendors we already know from the Wildfire Fair. Um, there's not a huge number of these guys, and they represent the entire state. But two products that I thought were interesting that I wanted to talk about here. There's a product called Evolution Steel Deck Framing by Fortress Building Products. So, and there's a builder in I think he's in the Santa Cruz area, and I met him at PV Palooza. He had a booth, and he told me that he has or had several jobs in PV Ranch where he's put in decks with this deck framing underneath. Okay, and his practice is all about doing fire safe stuff. So that's what he's concentrating. So I'll put in the minutes that this builder is Joseph Frith of Mountain Deck. Anyways, so that was a product because he's a local product. That's a good alternative.
Have meshing or something that dried leaves from getting under the deck?
No, I'm talking about, for your deck. Normally, like I put in this Trex deck, right? Well, it turned out that Trex, you have to have your, I think it was 13 inches on center. And normally a redwood deck is like 16 or something, 16 or 18. So it turns out when you have to have your joists closer together, you end up using 1/3 more wood. And my builder said to me, he couldn't believe what he had to put under. And though I had a more fire resilient deck underneath, I had a big pile of wood. So this guy, by offering this steel deck frame, that's a so people, whatever you're using on your decking surface, given that all these composites, and I assume basic is the same way, they have to be, the joist supports have to be closer together. You probably want to look at steel and not do what I did, which is basically pile firewood under my deck. Okay, even though it's, preservative treat, they're big beams, so in theory they should. But just, in theory, if you have a choice and the cost, I don't know what the cost is, but if you have a choice, you should consider it. The other product that I learned about is, the wildfire defense mesh. It used to be called bushfire mesh. The opening is between 1/8 and well, now there's another, the guys who make Vulcan vents, they have also come, Ember Mesh, they call it Ember Mesh product, and there's only spacing. So now there's an alternative. The only thing is, I don't think it's any easier to obtain than wildfire defense mesh, which, I asked PV Hardware about, can't you guys stock this for it? Because it's so hard to have to order like a $200 roll, right? So anyways, I'm hoping that as we have more options, that, then it'll be easier for people to encase their deck or do their gutter guard, and stuff like that.
How does that compare with the bulk?
Well, Vulcan vent is, it's a combination of this mesh that they now sell, but they also have like intumescent paint, and I think they have one other layer of something. So this, if you're only going with mesh, actually, I just read a paper recently. Turns out that even 1/8 inch mesh, like embers are going to get through, because what'll happen is hit the mesh and then they'll accumulate there. They'll continue to burn. And when they get small enough, they'll go through them. So that's why, in a sense, if you have these other vents that have some kind of block, where you have intumescent paint that balloons up, blocks everything out, those things are inherently more fire safe, but they're also, 20 times more expensive, right? And if you just want to meet code or you just want to get insurance, the mesh will work reasonably well. So that's the difference. Okay, let's see. Actually, I had three things I want to talk about. So the second thing I want to talk about is, I had to dog sit my grand dog for a few months back in January. So I got tired of walking the dog up and down my, and I also have been kind of disappointed that, I have 4 houses with wood shake roof across from me. I feel like no matter what if a wildfire comes through, all those houses are going to. So I got curious about how many wood shake roofs are in Portola Valley. Karen Batra said, and she said there were 100. And I never believed her. No offense, Karen. But but I wanted to see for myself, and I was walking the dog anyway. So I actually walked all the streets. I counted up 84 houses with wood shake. There's 40 more houses that I couldn't see top of a driveway. And the really interesting part was 14 of those houses were actually in my like Cervantes area, which kind of tells you that we're vulnerable, right? We have 14 houses with shake roofs. So I just thought that was kind of alarming. And the other weird thing was I noticed that a lot of times these wood shake are actually at corners, so they're at intersections, or in the case of Wyndham, Wyndham has 3 wood shake roofs and they're all at the only exit. So if a wildfire goes through there, those guys are going to have trouble with these houses going up. And so we have written a tip about this and come out in the next few weeks, but I'm hoping that maybe we could get people to and try to put in the money to replace their wood. So I saw a hand up. Do- do we-
I would, before we take the question, I do want to point out, the company Ember, a few years ago, they started having on their website the ability to connect with a home hardening expert and they're theoretically pre-qualified. They also have a shopping place that you go on Ember Defense's website, and they have Firestorm Ember Mesh. And, for $208, you can buy that roll. So it's
Oh.
an easy resource. And as far as the deck or the wood roof, my mom's house in Palo Alto, they've got a wood shake roof, and I was all ready to replace it. And that for years left. And I was shocked at how much it was going to cost to replace that roof. And I thought, well, inexpensive, right? You don't have to get anything fancy. And I thought, okay, 20, 30,000 and like 70,000. And this is a small house.
Mm.
So I don't think these people are saying, oh, it's $100, I'll replace it. It's ghastly expensive to replace these roofs. Okay, Christy? Christy, do you have a comment? Or she doesn't.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, there was one other thing I was going to say. I need to learn GIS, the mapping that you can put data in and then it shows up on a map. Houses are affected. So I was thinking of mapping out. Would that be a problem for anyone?
Well, this might have unintended consequences.
Well, the insurers already know.
And also, it's not in our code. It's not that the town has said anything. Decides that for example, you can't remodel your house unless you replace your roof. Or there's many ways that the town could encourage people to replace their roof, but I don't think we should be, not only the police, but yeah, I would not suggest.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
also-
actually, the town in the ordinance that they passed back 2021, 22, they outlawed to build new.
Yes, yeah, but
But nothing about exit.
these could be people that can't afford to. I mean, I really don't think it saying, I have all this money, but I just don't want to spend it.
Hmm.
Elderly people that aren't an income, and it's not like you can sell your house and take the money and go somewhere else. They're gonna, can't afford to sell your house because of the capital gains, so I don't know. Kim, did you want to say
I
something?
was just, I agree. I think so curious. What is a higher severity hazard? Or the, 0 to 5, 0 to 10, depends if it's, managed or having the ember mesh, for example, like where on the, scale of
Yeah.
priorities?
Yeah, I actually emailed this PhD at IBHS about that, with that question, and he sent me some information, but he said basically, he said that the danger of a wood shake roof is so great. It overrides all those other mitigations.
And putting my professional hat on for a minute, working with CAL fire departments in the Bay Area, they've told me, just knowing that I live here, because I've asked the same question, like what's gonna harden my home the most? And they've said the desirable thing that you can do.
Yeah, assuming that
Yeah.
you don't have a wood shake roof, or assuming that you have any roof.
I don't think we do, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
He was just saying, based on his experience working on wildland fires, seeing the homes that burned and the homes that didn't burn, the ember mesh is probably the most important if you're gonna, put your money towards something.
Yeah, in LA, there were the studies afterwards. Fire started in the attic because it went. Now that doesn't answer, your. Right. And then the other question that comes to mind, there are plenty of houses. Wall. So where is the difference then? Would the wood shake roof burn quicker than the siding because it's.
Well, you got to imagine the danger of ember storm, and you're just raining down embers. So that roof is slanted, the
there's-
embers, and also do you have materials in with the shakes? And so, yes, to get the mesh over your chimneys in or your vents, it's also going to go in there, but it's also get on the roof. And if you've got a bunch of stuff piled up and dried under your wood deck, it's start a fire there. And if you have wood siding and you've not cleared out 0 to 5, and it's gonna catch fire
Kindling.
there too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all.
But roofs are
kindled.
expensive. I mean, that's the big problem with, they're
Well,
just horribly
yeah.
expensive.
Have it blown off.
Yes, at least that's something.
Yeah.
And clean your gutters and get the vents on the gutters. At least that's something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. In 1960, LA had the Bel Air fire, where all the Hollywood people, and after that, LA banned wood shake roof. So they've banned wood shake roofs now for over 50. And,
For existing.
well, for all new, all new roofs.
Well, that's everywhere.
Basically, yeah, that's why it's really hard to find a wood shake roof in LA. But, when Menlo Park got their current fire chief a few years ago, I went to this talk and he said that because he came from Ventura County, which has the same law, he said he couldn't believe all these wood shake roofs in Menlo Park. He was taken aback. So,
But then there are the eucalyptus.
well, the thing,
Get me started.
yeah,
Okay.
well, the thing
So-
about the wood shake is, it just catches the embers. Because you just think, it's like embers going in the living room. Right.
Okay.
It's just going to pick up a lot more. Anyways, okay. So
Interesting
I won't,
conversation.
I'll do my GIS mapping on my,
Okay.
so my, my last thing is, so I went to the San Mateo County, they had a wildfire fair. And they had a speaker, Betsy Fire, her last name is Firebaugh. But anyways, she and her husband live in the Bonnie Doon, and they lost their house in this fire, and they have now finished rebuilding it. But she was a good speaker, so I was wondering, come talk, and she could address all kinds of stuff, like how they evacuated, how they rebuilt, all the insurance issues. She said it turned out, even though she had, I can't remember what kind of coverage she had, but basically the coverage that she did have only covered 50% of what it would cost for her to rebuild the house. So I just thought, would it motivate more people to do whatever needs to be done if we had her come?
Well, I mean, I would be interested. I don't know how many people actually watch the YouTube videos, but I would be interested. How does the rest of the committee?
Mm.
Yes.
I don't think that we could get significant participation in a standalone speaker.
It would,
The whole issue with the wildfire fair was that you focused the community on an
Yeah.
issue with a lot of details. And it's possible you could get somebody like that for the next time, but doing a standalone doesn't sound practical.
she could just zoom in during the meeting,
Yeah,
present for an hour during,
yeah, well,
Our meeting?
yeah, during one of our meetings,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's what I'm that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, have her,
People tune in on.
Doesn't matter. It would be for us.
yeah, it would be for us. And if MJ sends out the thing, yeah, the
Mm.
speaker, the people might
Might at least tune in.
tune in. We've had people on the YouTube channel watching the meeting, particularly interested in the company.
well, and I had said to her, maybe 15 or 20 minutes talk, and then
Yeah,
she could take
let's do it.
questions. I don't know. You guys are interested?
Yeah,
Except-
probably August or,
Yeah,
probably-
whenever you
yeah,
schedule it.
yeah, because next month's going to be Kim's presentation. Okay. I have a question about mitigation. Have you guys talked about, I know when Dee left, you had to drop all of Firewise. Have you considered, now that you have Kim, picking up that Firewise education piece? Or,
Well, Kim and I only had one meeting on the phone. And I know Kim's interest is kind of related to the school, so I thought she would cover this when she does her section.
okay.
So we didn't talk about doing,
Any question from the committee for the any questions from participants for the mitigation committee? Okay, update. Kim,
Should I give just a brief like background or just go update?
Kim, you do whatever you want. We are very, we don't have a lot of formal agendas. We take this time to tell each other what we think is interesting.
Okay, well, I'll let the group and the audience know how I landed. Just real briefly, I'm a PV resident of my professional background is emergency. I have been working in that industry for 20 years at the local, city and county level, the state level, as well as the federal level. When the LA fires took place in January, I had a moment where I was sitting up and I was thinking, gosh, I'm helping everybody and every jurisdiction. In Del Norte a few weeks ago, I'm helping all these jurisdictions prepare and plan for disasters except my own backyard. So I reached out to the town and I applied, have a position here on the Wildfire Committee as well as the, and now I'm on both committees volunteering in my blood. And that's how I got here. So a little bit of update. I've been, let's see, 2 EPC meetings. I've been tasked to chair the emergency operations plan update as well as the EOC design, which is operation center for the town of Portola Valley. And that's what I do as my day job is I for all levels of government. So this is really my bread and butter, working on that. And I've met with the county, so I've met with San Mateo County, so I've joined the, met with the county, I've met with other like jurisdictions, actually worked with them professionally, as well as the city of Pleasanton. I just met with the town of Los Altos Hills days ago. Mark Linder here, just to kind of review and look at, you know, what are other jurisdictions in terms of their emergency planning and preparedness as well. Like, how are they getting their better prepared? And that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment, mostly data gathering and, you know, preparing some outlines and working with Woodside Fire to kind of get some blessings on some fine tuning, you know, models and obviously working it through the town council. And that's going to be like a multi project. That's not something that you do is done within a couple of, really taking that emergency operations plan that was written into based on what it needs, as well as the EOC model and also like working through exercise project and finding time to do that on my free time is limited, but I'm really on the wildfire committee. What I would love to do, and I've talked to MFA about this, my biggest concern for the town of Portola Valley is community. If this happens, grab and go. And I don't believe they are. Having raised 2 kids here, my youngest is still at Corte Madera, but just being involved in the school district, I've volunteered with the school district for many years, for 10. There's a lot of connection points that I have in the with parents and peers where I feel like we can utilize them, you know, as key participants in getting the community prepared, right? So it's not do some things with the schools and the kids, you know, school day and what you need to do for that kind of preparedness. It's more using the schools and their Rolodex of parents to say, hey, you know, are you going and do you have a go? So I would love to kind of work that into, you know, my volunteering commitment to this. Just having those connections already and already working with Kim, you know, on the fire side with this other stuff. I think it just kind of seems like it would make the most sense because she has, you know, that I believe her name is who does the community preparedness, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So just kind of, you know, working that on the side as well as everything else I'm doing. That also, but you know, September is Emergency Preparedness Month in the world that I work in. And I do believe that maybe we could come up with something for September, at least for the schools and that's really it. That's my update.
I'm gonna let everyone else make comments before I do. One, nothing? Oh, I have so many comments. So first of all, I love this.
Mhm.
I would always be interested in seeing what the emergency plan is
Mhm.
for presentations to learn more about it, because
Mhm.
it's not something the city has learned much about, and I
Mhm.
think that we should also know.
Mhm.
I know there's been a lot of every time I meet with other chairs, the geological committee has also said we together,
Mhm.
because if there's an earthquake, a lot of times there's going to be a wildfire.
Mhm.
So I know that they would be very eager to give input and to have earthquakes kind of incorporated in.
Mhm.
And one thing that when I looked at the emergency plans and the go bag and things that are online is when we did the wildfire fair, MJ came up with a really weird list I'd never seen, duct tape, bar and gloves, because when you go out to do the garage door,
Mhm.
I'm not sure emergency preparedness.
Mhm.
If, it's important to include that that's going to be a variety of kind of emergency, to make sure that go bag and everything.
Mhm.
I have no idea what an earthquake would include. So I just think this is so desperately needed. Don't let us give you work. Sounds like you're really busy.
But good busy. I want to make a difference.
So how can we help? How can we help you to
Mhm. I think just being available for reach back. I'm happy to put. I can give you guys just like a basic overview on how it's gonna look moving versus how it looked back into of specifics and like design. I'm like right in the heart of it. Like I've got a draft over fire district right now. So, it might be a little bit of the cart before the horse, right now. But I think just being available and your right, is super important and helpful. And, I think trying to understand what's already been done so that we, right, like, so, right, like I don't, that list. There's lots of good stuff. So being together, I think.
And you could always ask, hey, I want an agenda item next month, to
Mhm.
discuss go bags, and we'll
Mhm. Mhm.
also, if we can ever vote to endorse a plan
Mhm.
that helps you because you're trying to move along
Mhm.
to the town councilor, who I don't even know how you're gonna approach it, but
Yeah.
that's also something we can.
There will be, so as part of the emergency one, there'll be specific hazard specific that will be developed as well, and one of them will be wildfire annex. One of them is already and that's already been written. So I'm just gonna fold that in. But certainly once I get to that, this group to help develop that.
Let me know how we
Mhm.
can help. And I would encourage, when you have time, reaching out to the geological committee about earthquake,
Mhm.
because I think they have a lot of knowledge. And they'd love to be
Mhm.
asked.
Yeah, and so there's an earthquake annex too.
Okay, good. Do they know it yet? Have you reached?
No, because we haven't even, this outline that I've developed, I just ran and just got approval. So it's kind of like a slow moving process.
Anything I can do to help?
Having worked for the government at all levels, quick, not a quick decision-making process.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
Well, you know, when you first, and when you first said you were, you know, so tied in with the school, I thought it would be a great way to meet, to outreach with the younger adults in Portola Valley. Cause like, for example, at my Firewise neighborhood meeting, everybody there is like over 65. And we're not reaching all these 40 and 50-year-olds with schools because they're, so, you know, if we could send home some mitigation, you know, fire mitigation materials through your channel, whatever channel you use to reach out to the schools, that would be great.
And my generation is eager. Are watching what's happening and
Yeah.
right, we're the ones that have the children that are at school. We're the ones that are thinking, if I'm in San Francisco at work for a meeting, am I gonna be able to get back to, you know, help evacuate my child? So we're very eager. I just don't think that the message is getting out there enough. Yeah.
I'm
Right.
curious, oh, I know, can I ask, as a parent in the school, have you been informed on the evacuation? Are you, how was that experience?
Yeah, so what, I think it's once a year they do where they bring out to the, and we, been called as parents. You know, everybody's wearing vests, the staff are all wearing vests, and it's your name, and you have to show your license and walk, you know, walk them back to the, area in which you've parked your car. So they have done a few, in terms of like the specific like paper plan, I haven't gotten emails about it loosely, but not, no.
So
We're just hoping that they deal with it and that,
So they're telling you that if there is a wildfire, you're supposed to drive to the school.
no. This was like a drill in which you have to pick up your child for an emergency, whether that's a fire, an earthquake. But for the evac and wildfire, and they are responsible for getting them off. And we're supposed to just follow directions.
And as part of your work, you're going to evaluate that?
No. No, because that's, I mean, the school district and the county work together on planning for that. So that's not,
Okay.
that's not my, I mean, I can, during COVID, I worked very closely with the superintendent to reopen the school. And we did that. We were one of the first districts to reopen on the peninsula, but, I was asked to review the plans at one. I don't
Because that's
know.
always been my concern is in a wildfire,
Mhm.
how are they going to get the buses to school?
Mhm.
And can the kids shelter in place? And
Yeah,
is there a plan for that? So-
yeah.
Okay, question. I'm so sorry. Yes.
No problem. So as someone who moved in from out of state,
Mhm.
and one of the first things I thought I ought to do, put together a go bag and went online, and the variation in go bag, I mean, everything from you will have to live on the wild in the you know, and cut off all of the
Yeah.
gas lines and so forth yourself,
Right.
to, you should have something, that will fit in your lap and will have your medicine and your, and a snack and a bottle of water. Those are the advices, so something that the town could provide as far as what is appropriate go bag would be marvelous.
Actually, you know, SERB or now Epic. You know about these people? You obviously don't. Well, okay, so the fire department, there used to be, it was SERB many years ago. It's now renamed Epic. And those are neighborhood volunteers that are organized by the fire department, like, what's her name?
Selena.
Selena. And the fire department on their website has a go. That's where I would go. If I want a go bag, I would go to the website for Epic, to find it and look what they have in their go bag.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't it under,
Also has a nice go bag list.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
they work, I mean,
Yeah.
PC work fire department.
Mhm.
That's, you know, the danger of going to the internet or to AI.
Yeah, too
Yeah.
much.
Just
Yeah.
trying to get, you
Yeah.
know, and we have people all around the country and what to
Mhm.
do is a interesting question.
San Francisco has a really good message that they started decades ago. It's 72hours.org. That's their website. I think it's 72sf.org now, but their reasoning behind that is at a minimum. And then what you do with that range is what falls on you. What pants do you need for the 72 hours? But that's a good kind of thing to think about too.
You can come to my place, don't worry. You got friends in the area, 72 hours, you don't need medicines.
But I do have to clarify, so personal preparedness and community preparedness is different than the planning and preparedness in which I'm working on with the town, because there's those two levels, right? So it's more localized personal preparedness, right? So that's individual preparedness versus administration and government preparedness. So just to kind of, so in the EOP, for example, we don't go into personal preparedness. That's different.
So there's also been a discussion about, with the evacuation study, we're going to recommend you only take one car because we want roads clear. Then I've read that when you leave your car behind, especially if it's B, the battery can catch on fire and the car is fuel fire, and it might be best to have people take their cars with them. So
Mhm.
it's just, that's one of those things that as you're thinking about this and you're making recommendations, what does the town want? You know, if you
Mhm.
evacuate early, take cars, most
Yeah. Well, one thing when I came on board was I noticed site is lovely, but it could, the particularly the emergency preparedness information could be spelled out a little bit more colorfully and clear, right? So that it captures your,
well, and they're very limited. That website's very, there's the limited technology. So you can't add a lot of pictures, you text, Mary Chin, very gifted, but she had to work with really archaic software. So
Mm.
it's, and we're not allowed to have our own website. So we can't, I could do much better than our website. So it's a problem.
for a WUI though, you want clarification and color, right? So it's a little,
Color's going to be a problem unless downloadable,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't think the town's going to buy new software, and those websites are pretty bad.
Yeah.
And now with the reduction in staff, this is not something that you're going to be able to update every, you know, I'd love to be mission links, and we have very limited staff, so you carefully, because you know, you could really want something that would update a PDF, you could constantly keep update or point to something. You really can't.
Just a real quick note about cars, by the way, the NFPA, National Fire Protection Agency, guidelines are if you're going to leave a car, keep it 30 feet away from your structure. So if it does catch on fire, it doesn't go right to your house. So just another random data point.
Can't you also put it in your garage, assuming your, house is resilient?
Um, I guess so. I didn't follow it that far. I mean, obviously if it's in the garage, it is a big fuel source. So I don't know, but obviously most of them are going to be in the garage, which seems fine. But you don't want to leave it right in front of the house, is what they say, because if it catches on fire, it'll catch the house on fire.
Right, that actually applies to any.
Yeah.
They all become fuel. But that's why I thought, putting it in the garage would give some protection.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, but I didn't, we could buy another copy of the code and read it.
So if we don't have anything else on this topic, I'm gonna, more comments? Okay, we're gonna move on to the insurance update. I'm gonna do it on the committee update. I'm gonna try to make this very quick. Kim, I will try to kind of bring you up to date in a very quick way. Okay, so this is our report on the insurance of Wanda and I subcommittee. This is our status on the insurance change tracking form. So as of June, we only have 104 responses from 90 PV households. Originally, we had a plan. We were going to send out postcards. We had got. So we've only been able to send emails and media. So this represents about 5% of Portola Valley, 55 different streets reported. So it's not concentrated in one area. So on September 21st, I'm going to close the tracking form. We had committed to do this report in late fall. This is a really quick overview. I actually send the report. I'm going to crunch some numbers. And when we actually got our first width of the data, there were some privacy. So some of the information I don't share, like the streets that have been reporting. When I make that final report, I'm going to make it so that the committee can see it. And then it's just such a small sample size. If the town council actually wants to see the streets, I'll make them a little chart. So these are the responses to what type of reporting. So this is not a survey. This is tracking change. So we were tracking, has your insurance been not renewed or canceled? Or have you had a premium increase or decrease? So has there been a change in your insurance? So one household could report 3 or 4 different occurrences in a year. And then as we discussed it, do you have home insurance and fire insurance and everything's fine and you want to tell us about it? And so this tracking form has a chance to elaborate. And we also added, do you have no home insurance? And I didn't, so as you can see here, of the responders had a non-renewal or a cancellation. 33% have home and fire insurance and they wanted to tell us about it. A lot of those people actually reporting a premium increase. They just didn't click the right button. So when we looked at the insurance companies that were not renewing, or you can see that over the last 4 years, farm, a couple incidents with travelers and farmers, and then the rest of them were random companies. So not one company. And when you see what the policies, only about half of the people that reported being not renewed or canceled had even found a policy. So obviously overwhelmingly found, policies, California Fair Plan. Surprisingly, 4 people managed to get State Farm to insure them. And, a couple of people were able to get Scottsdale. They're a non, what do you call it? A non-recognized NJU?
Non-admitted.
Yeah, a vendor. So the dates of cancellation, in blue, it means the people reported on that date. These dates are scattered across the last 4 years. I don't think it's significant, the number of cancellations in 2024, because I don't think we have enough responders really. And then how long have you had your insurance? It didn't matter. Us, so it really doesn't matter how long. And overwhelmingly, 86% of the people that got canceled premium after cancellation. One person's insurance decreased, but I think they probably reduced. So the premium increases, 8 people reported that their premiums more. 9 said anywhere from 30 to 50%, and said 10 to 20. So I think it probably depended on whether you increased you kept the same. But it was definitely a whopping increase. What surprised me is how few on-site inspections were performed before cancel. That really surprised me because a few years ago, this is what the insurance commission was stressing. Oh yeah, the insurance out and do inspections, and that's not happening. So there were very few mitigation up. Only 10% of people were even told, hey, if you make certain improvements, you can avoid mitigation or non-renewal or cancel. So there were 5 people that were given that chance. One person said, I'm not going to, and I think it had to, I think as I remember it had something to do with their roof. And of the 4 people that performed the mitigation actions and did everything that was asked, only 2 of them, or 50%, actually avoid or non-renewal. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to successfully be able to keep your policy if you. So this question was added because post housing element report asked us to do this report, and this question was how's high density housing. And I think we can say it is not. It does not play a significant factor if. It didn't seem to matter at all. And then premiums again, they were scattered. So I did learn one thing when you, originally I'd said, how much did you increase? And overwhelmingly, no, you've got to give them the choice to enter in. Well, some people don't know what a percentage is. And we have some very interesting answers. So I will be doing a lot of work on the final report. But I think you can see that our premium changed all the way from 100%. So I'll make this a little easier to follow in the report. Again, no inspections before. And that's our status, and I'll be presenting the report in fall. Okay, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
Jen. On one of the slides, it showed that State Farm had canceled policies, or maybe the second most.
Mhm.
And the most new policy?
They added 4 people,
Interesting.
but those cancellations were over a 4-year period.
Mm.
So and I will look at this in the final report and I will say, well, gee, different.
Mhm.
I don't know the address.
Mhm.
And I will look at that person's information of why they were canceled. Because many people specify because there was no access to my property for a fire truck, or I was canceled because of my roof. And we can't put that specifically with free because of privacy, but in a report, I can look at that as a whole. And I can do it in a way that's very benign.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then my other question, this survey was done before, because aren't they're not using the new mapping, but they're using their own to determine the fire hazard.
They're using, my opinion is they're using a lot of drones. And I know this
Mm.
from people telling me. They're looking at roofs. A lot of people are getting false reports that their roofs are in bad shape.
Mhm.
They're using a lot of drones and,
Airbnb.
yeah, and then they, of course, have their,
Right.
and MJ, I'm sure you have something to.
Well, actually, there's a law that's working on right now in California to try to outlaw use of satellite, not drone, because they're thinking all the cancellations are coming from satellite. And
Well, I think that Sacramento is desperate to keep the insurance companies in California, so I don't think they're gonna restrict anything. Because they just want the insurance companies to insure the homes.
Great presentation.
Okay.
your results are great. There's some really great points in there.
Yeah, but there's not enough data. I mean, I think if we had been able, and I mean, I sent, emails to clusters of people and I don't think people are motivated to report the results.
Well, I was thinking, I was looking, it's a real, thank you for the presentation. Possibly one way to look at that this is actually good news, because you could assume that the unhappy people are responding. And so if we have 107 unhappy people of the 2,700, whatever, it might not be such a big problem yet that people are getting canceled. Now, this is an assumption, obviously, but I was looking at the data and said, oh, well, sure, all the people who are really upset, they answered because they're angry and they want help.
And I do see clusters of communities responding. I don't think the vast majority of people know this is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. I don't think the vast majority, the Portola Valley newsletter, and, or they have it on their to-do list. And, so I think it's a real shame we couldn't send the postcards, because I think if we,
Have you
gotten-
considered doing a fundraiser? We could do a fundraiser for our committee so that we have money for postcards. And I think it would be successful. It's not that much money. It's $3,000.
that's a great, yeah, it's at dollars. But you also need staff time to, they have to send it to the printer, and then I can sort them and take them to the post office. But, it's now been a year, and, we have a fundraiser for the town, and, there is an argument that the things that is fundraising for is more important than this. This is really just an informational bit of something they could have taken to our state representative. It's not like it's going to have concrete results, and it's probably more important that the EPC or the Conservation Committee that actually gets donations towards their work.
Or maybe with the fire department. through a mailer with the fire department because they had money.
It would be interesting. I don't know if their mailer will come before September, but their letter is very thick and I hate to buy an insurance.
I think it would have to be separate. It would have to be
Yeah,
separate.
Yeah,
yeah,
it goes
no,
to the
and they're
whole
not gonna,
district.
yeah, you have good ideas.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Next is, I'm sorry, any questions from the committee? Any questions from participants? Okay. The next is the Conservation Committee update.
So the conservation, I think all of you know, we had an event on third, which actually the presentation was fabulous. Kim, Conservation Committee, and the reason for that event was to educate people that fire mitigation in wildlife habitat is absolute something people. And what triggered it, that we go to West Ridge through the half-acre parcels, mowed to the ground, and there is nothing. The quails have nothing to go. And it was, and you were there. I think Kim brought out very clearly. She was saying they have now new data that oak trees, that they are actually a fire defense. And like Kim said, she hasn't seen where an oak tree was burning and then the house burned. It's the other way. The house is burning and then the oak tree burns. So she made a really good case about if you have your oak trees, even if they're in the 5, you have the big trunk, and as long as the canopy is the 16 feet above the roof, it's not a fire hazard. So she made a really good case for vegetation as long as it is controlled. Yeah. We had way less people than we expected. I think we had. So we'll do this again in autumn, and we'll just have to do way more marketing to get more people. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And you Zoom.
What do you mean you were disappointed? I was jealous.
Really? Oh, no, I was deeply disappointed. I was expecting 300 people.
Recorded on YouTube?
Yes, no,
Okay.
yes. So we have a video. It will be edited by the fire department, and then the fire department will put it out. We'll put it on if you want to put it under Wildfire, feel free. Okay. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. It's going to be edited by somebody. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm
As
sure,
long as I'm not sure if all the Q&A, because remember we were getting further and further to the side, and I realized that afterwards, I said, oh God, we did middle. So I haven't seen the uncut stuff. So some of the cool answers might be audible, but no picture.
Yeah.
And we'll send out.
and I'm sure MJ will
That's
include it
why
in
you
her
did
tip.
it in the town hall? Because you thought you were going to get hundreds?
No, we did it because we always.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was surprised it was there.
Yeah, we have always done that because you have you don't have a screen here, so how you?
But you
So
can
you have
zoom
that
it though, so that's
You
nice.
can zoom it, but you see, we wanted people there, and so if it's on Zoom, who's gonna come? Everybody's gonna watch from home, so it's sort of.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we had it as on,
Mm.
and so then people will.
Has Kim asked the Conservation Committee? She asked us if we had a list of, everyone keeps asking her vendors. And we ended up saying, well, we don't have an updated list of our brochure that had a list of really great conservation-minded vendors.
Like what? Selling what?
Well, to do mitigation work, because the thing is, these people that are mowing down their property, it may, they don't have a vendor that will do it right. But, like the whole, what Hogshead
Yeah,
and,
Hog.
the other
Yeah.
place that they were fantastic conservation. people that could do mitigation work the correct way. That might be something that would help, is if you had a list of vendors.
Yeah, we actually, we stay away from.
I know. I
So then
know.
you have a list and you can't say this, these are good or these are.
Yeah.
What we are planning to do, and we're going to banish it, well, we're going to have a flyer out for the gardeners. Because at the end, it's the gardeners that are cutting the bush. Have you?
Yeah.
So that's what we are trying to do. You know, there are masticators out there, yeah. Some do a terrible job, some do, so no, we are not going there. Because we know really bad people out there who would want to be on that list, and we would do anything to have these people. So it's
Mm.
complicated.
It is.
Yeah.
I had a whole conversation
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Yeah.
Karen. It is.
But we do have the old Wildfire Fair list on
Yeah,
in
so
one of the
that's fine. Yeah,
databases. I don't know if anybody,
I sent it to Kim. So theoretically, she's sending it up.
hmm,
When we had our property inspected a couple, ago, the fire mark of folks to use.
Really?
or-
really?
Denise?
Hmm.
No, it was a gentleman.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing that anymore.
They
But
might
Kim
not be.
wanted a list. She wanted a list.
Oh, well, I could give her the list they gave me.
Hmm.
I didn't end up using it, but
You may want to check with conservation to make sure that it's,
Yeah, can you
It's-
check with us?
yes.
Because there are some very active people and they do really good marketing and they
Yeah.
bad than good.
I don't think it was, I don't even know if I have it anymore. This is a couple of
Like
years.
these names.
It was just the names of the few folks with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank
for-
you for coming.
Yes, we are. And why don't you just put in your application? I'm serious.
I mean,
I think I'm joking. I'm not. I'm not. I'm serious. Call me. No, no, no.
so one of the things, because, you know, the approves, taking trees out. And so the subcommittee, I'm on that subcommittee, so we go out, we, like, for everyone, even for the dead tree. Trees dead. And so I have a very good vision who, for example, is in good arborists and is an arborist who will do
Yeah.
anything for a check. So, but we cannot communicate that. It's illegal. It's illegal to do that.
Well,
We can't rank people.
well, when we, when we did the wildfire committee, long talk. And you can have a list if it's worded properly. Did have a list of vendors we invited, invite everybody. So you can have, I mean, you'd have to work with the town manager and get him to clear it, but you could have that the Portola Valley Conservation Committee, certain standards and ways that they want. Now, they're not saying anything with good arborist or not, but we have certain conservation-minded methods we use. And these are vendors that have met our criteria. And you're not, but your concern is that you have to state, we are not guaranteeing the quality of their work and we're not recommending, but we can say that these people follow our suggested methods. And so there is a wording, and I believe, look at our,
We can look into
There.
that.
yeah, so there is a way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's desperately needed.
Yeah.
Well, I see, because I see it, you know, there are people who will get an arborist because they, the tree out. They are not going to look at this, they get an arborist. And then there are people who get an arborist because they don't want to spend a lot of money on getting. So, you know, it's, at the end of the day, it's tree trimming, and that's what we're talking. And,
Yeah.
and masticating, but that's really big.
Yeah.
So it's not really a vendor list, it's a tree.
Well, but it's also to clear everything. And leave the areas for the quail. And I mean, that costs, it cost a lot more money. And that's that's somebody that knows.
There are good gardeners.
There are, but they cost more. But for the people that are willing to spend the money, then you, at least you
Right.
have the list.
Yeah, well, we can certainly look in.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we are now, so is everyone, are we all good for July? Because that would be when, Kim would come back to do her, presentation, Fire Marshal.
Right.
Kim, not APC
Yes.
Kim.
I know her and I are calling each other Kenji.
Okay, Kim G.
What's
Well, I
that?
should call her Fire Marshal.
Yes.
So that is our next scheduled date, July 16th.
Gee, I probably have to leave early that.
We can skip to, and we don't have a lot of other items. We could skip to August 20th. If that works better for everyone.
Either is fine with me.
Whatever, either is fine with me.
Kim C, how, and Marianne, how do you?
Either way.
Yeah, I think I can do it. That might be the first day of school.
What, August?
August 20th?
20th?
The first day of school?
I know,
Yikes.
it's fine.
Okay, so we're not gonna do then July 16th. We will do,
It is the first day.
oh,
That's okay.
then,
No, it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it should be fine.
okay. You
Well,
sure?
I was going to ask you, Jennifer, why on the agenda does a meeting?
Because I must have been an old template.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe something had changed in ours.
No, you know,
Stress of preparing agenda.
well, and sometimes they do something else with it. Okay, so then we will do,
August 20th?
unless we want to go back to the 18th and how does everyone feel? How early do you have to leave?
5?
So would that work better for you, Kim, and do July 16th?
I can do July 16th. It might be easier just because the first week.
How about we do July 16th and plan not? Would that work for you? MJ, and then, we'll just, we're not going to have anything else on the agenda, really.
Oh, just Kim?
Really, it'll be Kim and subcommittees, so that'll be it. I mean, I don't have anything. Don't even have to update for the tracking form. And, we'll just, I guess I'll have to take meeting minutes. Yes. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll not plan to do August.
You want us to take that off our calendars?
Yes, you can take off August 20th from your calendars.
July 16th.
And then we'll see about July. Whether that makes any sense to you.
Okay, and then I will talk to that Betsy Firebaugh about what is that, September 17th,
Right, do you want to plan for that?
if it's okay.
Yeah, okay,
What
that's
did you
great,
say? 17th?
because we're talking.
Oh, sorry.
September 17th, we're gonna have and can you send me the information so that I know how to do the agenda
Okay.
line? Okay,
What we still talking about? July
Okay.
16th? I gotta go
all
out.
right, and then we're gonna, can I get a motion to close this meeting?
Wait, are we?
Motion to close the
I
meeting?
move to adjourn.
Okay, I second. All in favor? Good. We're ending the meeting at 6:05.
So did we schedule July?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We are scheduled July 16th.
And then
And then
September.
it's-
Okay. I have to get home to my cousin.
Sorry I
know.
talked so much.
I know.
No, I think we all enjoy the subject.
Are you holding up okay? I got your note about your mom.